Alright, so my name is Nick Jago, and I'll be doing the effects on 9/11. And as you can see, here's a picture of the Pentagon when it got attacked on September 11th, 2001. And here's the World Trade Centers on September 11th, 2001. Just a little introduction to my research. On September 11th, 2001, America lost approximately 3,000 lives in the terrorist attacks. The terrorist attacks happened when 4 separate jetliners crashed into the World Trade Centers in New York City, the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and the last one crashed down in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. My thesis is that these acts of terror ended up having major effects on the United States economy, drove the United States into a military conflict in the Middle East, and it also changed airport security measures throughout the whole entire country. Here's just some short-term impacts on the United States economy. 4 days after the attacks on 9/11, the stock market was forced to shut down, or it was forced to shut down for 4 days, excuse me. And this was the first time it actually had to shut down since the Great Depression. When the stock market reopened, the Dow Jones dropped by 600 points the first day. The airline industry also had to close down for 4 days after the attacks. And then the year after 9/11, the Dow Jones was also harmed in a severe way because the threat for war was very high, especially in the Middle East. And then some long-term impacts on the economy. President George W. Bush, while he was in office for 8 years, he ended up spending a total of $864.82 billion on the war on terror. President Barack Obama, his predecessor, or his successor, ended up spending a total of $857 billion on the war on terror. But instead of calling it the war on terror, he ended up calling it military spending. The war on terror cost overall in these two administrations cost America $1.8 trillion. If we would not have gone to war, our total debt would be about $16.2 trillion, I believe. And instead of being $18 trillion, which it is today, so no matter what, we'd still be in a ton of debt. Next is the military conflict that ensued after the attack on 9/11. One of the most famous lines from President Bush's administration, it came a couple days after the attacks when he was in New York City. He said, "I can hear you, I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you, and soon the people that knock down these buildings will hear from all of us soon." President gave the Taliban, which was an Islamic State, a group who controlled large portions of Afghanistan, and he gave them the option of giving up Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden, and if not, we would retaliate against them. The Taliban refused, and as a result, on October 7th, 2001, American forces started bombing Taliban and Al-Qaeda locations within Afghanistan. This military conflict continued. British forces, along with Northern Alliance forces, they were a group of anti-Taliban forces in the Afghanistan region. They also joined in the bombing efforts against the Taliban and Al-Qaeda groups. The Northern Alliance captured Kabul, which is the capital city of Afghanistan, in November of 2001, and many Al-Qaeda fighters were also forced to retreat because of this, and they retreated into the caves and mountain regions of Afghanistan and Pakistan. American ground forces were then directing the Air Force as to where to drop their payloads. And this is just a picture of some of the bombings that went along. This is one of the planes that were involved, and then this is actually the Battle of Tora Bora, which I'll be talking about next on the right side. December of 2001, the caves and mountain regions were captured by American forces. And this resulted in many Al-Qaeda and Taliban deaths or for them to be captured. Osama bin Laden, unfortunately, was not among any of the Al-Qaeda people that were captured or killed during this raid, and this was called the Battle of Tora Bora, and this is just the region in between Pakistan and Afghanistan. It was believed that he escaped Pakistan before the attack with the help of the locals in the region, and they actually respected him because he actually went up against the United States. America did get justice, as we all know, on May 2nd, 2011, I should say, when the United States Navy SEALs raided his secret compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, and they killed him. Now I'm going to be talking about the airport security before the attack on 9/11. Airport security measures were not that good before the attacks on 9/11. Security screeners were hired by airlines, and they were unable to find weapons. And many times, many screeners that were hired before the attacks had been given inadequate training, and as a result, screeners were unskilled and also very inexperienced. After the attacks, a lot changed. President George W. Bush, he delegated $20 billion to improve security at all airports throughout the country. This involved more luggage screening that were implemented. Security officers also had the ability to check luggage and also do vehicle checks. They also were able to screen passengers before they boarded planes, and also operate luggage screening such as like X-ray machines. The next thing was the Transportation Security Administration, also known as the TSA, was created out of this. It was created out of the Homeland Security Act of after 9/11. And they were created in order to improve security measures at all airports throughout the country also. Just some more last thing, airport security after the attacks, again, just new airport security regulations were also implemented at all airports. Some requirements that were made were background checks on over 750 employees at all airports. Increased law enforcement presence throughout all airports, especially at like bigger hubs like New York, Boston, Washington DC, Chicago, and Los Angeles. There was also screening of all luggage using both X-ray machines and TSA agents, and they would go through bags and other stuff like that. And there's my bibliography, and that's it. Thank you for your time.